Okay, so let's talk about a threat that's growing all around us, right under our noses. It's not some new virus you've seen on the news. Nope, this is something much, much older. Something we honestly thought we'd already beaten. It's a silent pandemic, and it's happening right now, in hospitals and communities all over the world.
I want you to just imagine for a second. What if a simple infection from a scrape on your knee could actually be life-threatening? Or what if routine surgeries, things we do every single day, suddenly became way too risky to even attempt? Look, this isn't the plot of a science fiction movie. It's the very real future we are staring down the barrel of if our miracle drugs, our antibiotics, stop working.
So, to really get a grip on how we ended up here, we need to rewind the clock. We've got to go back to a time when our understanding of the world was completely transformed.
It's kind of hard to believe, but before the mid-1800s, we had no idea what really caused disease. The best guess was that getting sick was just a weird chemical reaction. But then this guy, Louis Pasteur, came along and changed everything. Through his work, he proved that tiny living things, microbes, were behind it all. They were the reason our food spoiled, and more importantly, they were the reason we got sick.
This idea, the germ theory of disease, was an absolute game changer. It led to pasteurization, clean surgery, vaccines, and it set the stage for maybe the single biggest medical invention of the 20th century, antibiotics. For the very first time, we actually had a weapon to fight back against these invisible invaders.
But here's the catch, right? Life finds a way. It adapts. And those very same germs that we've been fighting for a century, well, now they're fighting back. This fight back is called Antimicrobial Resistance, or AMR for short. And let me be super clear about one thing. This is not about your body becoming resistant to antibiotics. No. This is about the germs themselves evolving. They're literally learning how to survive our best medicines, turning into what we call superbugs.
And the scale of this problem? It's just staggering. Just in the United States, we're talking about more than 2.8 million of these resistant infections every single year.
And those infections have a very real, deadly cost. Out of those millions of cases, over 35,000 people in the U.S. die from them, directly.
But this isn't just a U.S. problem, not by a long shot. When you zoom out and look at the whole world, a major study found that back in 2019, AMR was directly responsible for 1.27 million deaths. To put that in perspective, that's more people than died from HIV/AIDS or malaria that year.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, the COVID-19 pandemic happened. Our hospitals were totally overwhelmed. Antibiotic use went way up, and all the usual infection prevention efforts kind of went out the window. The result? A massive 20% jump in these resistant infections that start in hospitals, basically wiping out years of progress in the fight.
You know, these numbers are terrifying, but it's so easy to get lost in them. We have to remember that behind every single one of those statistics, there's a person. There's a human story. Let me tell you about Bilal. He's 22. He got typhoid, which used to be a pretty straightforward illness to treat, but his was a drug-resistant strain. So instead of simple pills, he had to get this expensive, last-resort antibiotic through an IV in the hospital. This is the new reality we're facing for what used to be common, treatable infections.
And Bilal's story isn't just a one-off. It plugs right into the scary data. That last resort drug he needed, it belongs to a class of antibiotics called carbapenems. And as you can see, resistance to these super important drugs is skyrocketing. It's growing by more than 15% every single year.
And if you look at where this is hitting the hardest, well, it's not an equal opportunity crisis. In places like Southeast Asia, nearly 1 out of every 3 infections is now resistant to our drugs. Compare that to Europe, where it's closer to 1 in 10. The difference is stark.
So you might be asking yourself, why? Why is it so much worse in some places? Well, a huge piece of that puzzle is what's called the diagnostic gap. In sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, almost no labs, less than 2%, can run the basic tests to figure out what bacteria they're dealing with. So doctors are left guessing which antibiotic to use, and that guessing game, it just fuels even more resistance. What all of this adds up to is something experts call a syndemic. It's a bit of a fancy word, but the idea is simple. AMR isn't just a biology problem. It's all tangled up with poverty and fragile healthcare systems. The countries with the fewest resources to fight back are the ones getting hit the absolute hardest.
Okay, I know, that was a lot of doom and gloom, but the story does not end there. In fact, all over the world, science is starting to fight back with some truly incredible new ideas.
The first step in any fight is to know your enemy, right?
And our ability to track these superbugs is exploding. In 2016, only 25 countries were sending data to the WHO. By 2023, that number had quadrupled to 104 countries. This kind of data is absolutely essential if we're going to get ahead of this.
And having all this new information is leading to a major shift in our battle plan. For decades, our main strategy was broad-spectrum antibiotics. Think of them like carpet bombs that just wipe out all bacteria, good and bad. The new approach is way smarter. It's more like a precision-guided missile, using innovative therapies to target only the bad guys.
And the weapons in this new arsenal are, frankly, mind-blowing. We're talking about lab-made antibodies that give your immune system superpowers. We're using viruses that are natural-born bacteria hunters. We are even taking gene-editing tools like CRISPR and turning them into weapons that can slice and dice a superbug's DNA. These are tactics the bacteria have literally never seen before.
Look, the discovery of antibiotics gave us the modern world. It saved hundreds of millions of lives. That was the defining health battle of the 20th century. Now, as we're standing right on the edge of a world without effective antibiotics, we have to ask ourselves a really serious question. Is this fight, the fight against their resistance, going to be the one that defines ours?